Get your hands where I can see them now. I said do it now.
You know, I've been a cop for 22 years, seen everything from neighborhood squabbles to federal racketeering cases, but nothing, and I mean nothing, was as unreal as the day I was arrested by the men I was about to supervise. It felt like walking into a bad dream, a nightmare I'd actually planned, but still couldn't believe was coming true. The whole city was watching. They just didn't know it yet. This all started a year ago, maybe a little more, when I accepted the offer to become the chief of police for the city of Stonehaven. Stonehaven, beautiful on the outside, but underneath, the department was rotten, deeply infected with a culture of entitlement and a corrosive us versus them mentality, especially in the older, historically black neighborhoods like Northwood. My job wasn't just to manage, it was to tear down and rebuild. And you can't fix a systemic problem with a memo from an air-conditioned office, right? You have to see the rot up close, let it touch you so you can show the people who allowed it how ugly it really is. So, I decided to walk into the fire, literally. I had my official swearing-in ceremony scheduled for Monday morning, but on Friday afternoon, I went to Northwood. I left the unmarked car blocks away, tucked my ID and the brand-new Chief's badge deep in my crisp white button-down shirt. I wanted to look professional, unthreatening, a civilian who belonged. I chose Meridian Street, a stretch known locally for its subtle but constant police presence, the kind of place where a black man walking with confidence is considered an anomaly, a threat. I wasn't Damon Hayes, decorated officer, that day. I was just Damon, a guy taking a long walk, and you could feel the pressure of the street, the whispers of the past. The moment I stepped onto the pavement, I was focused, observing everything, the peeling paint on Mrs. Rodriguez's deli, the teenagers laughing on the stoop, the way the late afternoon sun hit the worn bricks. 22 years of instinct told me exactly where the heat was, 3 blocks ahead, where a marked patrol car was sitting, windows down. Inside were 3 officers. Officer Cale, the senior guy, a man with too many years of unchecked power in his eyes, the kind of guy who judges a person based on how they walk, not what they do. His partner, Officer Jax, was already twitching, hand near the door handle ready to jump out and assert control over anything that moved. And in the back, silent, was Officer Reyes. You know that feeling, that slow-motion inevitability? That's what it was. They saw me. Of course they saw me. A confident black man in a clean white shirt walking down their street, looking like he owned the ground. That's a challenge to their internal rulebook. The car doors slammed open almost in unison, a practiced choreography of intimidation. Cale stepped up first, thumbs hooked in his duty belt, puffing out his chest like a proud pigeon. "Hey, you! Hold up right there. We've had reports of suspicious activity in the area." That line, reports of suspicious activity, it's the universal code for, I don't like how you look, and I'm going to make your life difficult. I kept my hands visible, my demeanor calm, the very picture of respectful non-compliance. "Officer, I'm simply walking on a public sidewalk. Could you articulate the specific facts that lead you to believe I am engaged in criminal activity, as required by the Fourth Amendment?" I delivered it with the quiet confidence of a man who wrote the training manual they probably skimmed. That threw Cale off his game, visibly. His face flushed red, the kind of anger that comes from having your assumed authority questioned by someone you instinctively view as beneath you. Jax, the eager one, stepped closer, his hand hovering over his radio. "Listen, buddy, we don't need a constitutional lecture. IDs, now. You want to make this harder than it has to be? I understand my obligation to identify myself if a lawful arrest is being made," I continued, my voice measured, deep, not rising with the pressure, but absent reasonable suspicion, I'm exercising my right to continue about my business. "Perhaps you can explain Department Policy 12B regarding discretionary stops." I saw the flicker of confusion in Jax's eyes. How could this civilian, this guy they profiled, know their internal policy numbers? That was the first clue they missed. They missed it because their anger had already blinded them. The tension was thick, palpable. The crowd was starting to gather, phones coming out, the digital witnesses assembling. The brick wall of the old Morrison building was now literally at my back. They were closing the circle, 5 of them now, with the backup unit arriving, Officers Vance and Perry. 5 armed men against one guy in a white shirt, all because I dared to walk my own street. It was a tactical formation I'd helped design, now being used against me. The irony was suffocating. Cale keyed his radio, creating a fictitious narrative for dispatch. Subject is resisting, showing signs of hostility, possible threat to officer safety. I heard the lie, the escalation code, being broadcasted into the airwaves as if it were fact. It was pure theater, designed to justify the inevitable. My eyes swept the crowd, cataloging the faces, the emotions. I knew what was coming next. It was Jax who broke the physical barrier. He came forward with a shove, hard, sending me crashing back into the gritty brick wall. The jolt scraped the back of my hand, leaving a sharp red line across my palm, a tiny, visceral smear of blood on the pristine white shirt. It was small, but undeniable proof of their unprovoked assault. And in that violent jolt, that crucial moment that would define everything, the heavy, polished piece of metal I'd carefully placed in my breast pocket tumbled out, landing face down on the concrete sidewalk right beside my shoe, completely unnoticed by the officers whose focus was now purely on control. The chief of police's badge, the shock of the blow sent a wave of adrenaline, but years of training kicked in, not as a target, but as a commander analyzing a threat. Jax was already moving in, his face contorted in rage, ready to cuff me, and Cale was yelling, "Resisting arrest! You just bought yourself a ticket downtown, buddy." I stared at Jax, my voice low, cutting through his rage like a scalpel. "You've just violated Department Protocol 14.3 regarding use of force against a non-resisting subject. You're operating without articulable facts, and you've committed battery under color of authority. When you ask me if I understand my rights, I will tell you this. I do. And you, officer, do not." My certainty, my use of their own language momentarily stunned them, but not enough to stop the inevitable. But then the real interruption came. It wasn't me, it was Ms. Clara. Ms. Clara, an older woman in a postal worker's uniform, had been standing near the edge of the crowd, watching the whole mess with a disapproving, knowing look. She saw the glint of metal on the ground, the sunlight catching the gold edge. She stooped down with the easy grace of someone used to retrieving packages, picked up the badge, and frowned. She looked at the engraving, and her expression changed from curiosity to pure shock. She didn't know me, but she knew official identification. She moved directly toward the most senior officer present, who, thankfully, was Captain Eva Rodriguez, head of the patrol division, who had just arrived in the backup car, expecting a routine situation under control. Miss Clara held the badge out to Captain Rodriguez, her voice trembling slightly. "Captain, I think this belongs to him. I think this gentleman dropped his—" Captain Rodriguez took the badge, saw the flash of the rank, and her jaw dropped. The word was engraved in heavy, authoritative script. "Chief." Her eyes snapped from the shiny metal to me. The man, backed against the wall, hand bloody, white shirt smeared with dirt and concrete dust. The rank, the badge number, it was unmistakable. Her captain's rank badge suddenly felt paper-thin. The captain turned, her voice sharp and commanding, cutting through the chaos Cale and Jax were creating. "Officers! Stand down, now!" It wasn't a request. It was an explosion of realized authority. Cale and Jax froze, mid-move. They looked at the badge in Captain Rodriguez's hand, then at me. The bravado evaporated, replaced by a cold, stomach-lurching horror. Jax's face drained of blood, going from furious red to ashen gray in seconds. Reyes, the silent one, looked like he was about to vomit. They finally saw who they had laid hands on, and the sheer, career-ending magnitude of their mistake hit them like a physical blow. Their faces told the story. They hadn't just attacked a civilian. They had assaulted the man who held their entire future in his now scraped hand. I straightened up slowly, adjusting my cuffs, brushing the dust from my pristine white shirt. Captain Rodriguez, her own shame radiating off her, stepped forward and held the badge out to me. Chief Hayes. Sir, I took the badge, the cool weight of the metal a familiar comfort, and clipped it onto my duty belt with a practiced, deliberate movement. I didn't say a word to the stunned officers. I didn't gloat, I didn't yell, I didn't even raise my voice. I just looked directly at Officer Kale, then Jax, then Reyes, and then the backup pair. Vance and Perry, Captain Rodriguez, I said, my voice quiet, formal, cutting through the stunned silence of the street and the crowds. Secure the body cam footage. Collect the names and contact information of every single witness, especially Ms. Clara. Secure the scene. And notify Internal Affairs. These 5 officers are suspended effective immediately. They will be processed and detained pending federal review. I walked away from the wall, leaving the 5 officers paralyzed in their shame, looking utterly defeated, their power crumbling around them. The crowd erupted, not in wild cheering, but in a deep, collective sigh of satisfied justice. I saw a mother in the crowd, one of the first to start recording, slowly lower her phone, a look of profound relief and vindication washing over her face. That was the night the department changed. The story went viral faster than any official report. I addressed the department at 5 a.m., no notes, just the truth and my bandaged hand resting on the podium. I told them we failed the test and that the uniform was a promise, not armor. Within 2 months, Kale and Jax were facing federal charges, not for the assault but for a pattern of civil rights violations the investigation unearthed. Vance and Perry were fired for failure to intervene. The rot was exposed and the system began to clean itself. Today, Meridian Street is different. There are bike patrols now, officers stopping for coffee at Mrs. Rodriguez's deli, building community instead of occupying territory. My badge, the one Ms. Clara picked up, has a tiny, almost invisible scratch from the fall, a scar no polish can erase. I kept it as a reminder that integrity endures only by surviving the tarnish. Justice isn't loud, you see, it's just lasting. It demands that you show up, know your worth, and force the truth into the light. So, that's my story. It's what I had to do to save my city and my department. I want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever witnessed a moment where power was instantly reversed? Where someone thought they were in control and instantly lost everything? Let me know in the comments below. The good, the bad, and the unbelievable. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it. Let's keep this conversation about justice and accountability going.